So we're gonna go down the Grandview trail, which was built by a miner. It's a pretty cool trail. I'm doing this part at the end after we already came back up. I forgot to do it at the beginning, so I'll look like I'm breathing hard and the sun is down a little bit. It took a few hours to go down and back up, but I'm going to show you some of the signs that you can read about the trail. Yeah, hang on. Yeah, they're in the top lid. That's right, the trail was built by Pete Berry. So let's go look at these signs. If you didn't have time to read any of these, just press pause and you can read them on your own. So in this video, I'm filming this front piece at the end of the hike and putting it at the beginning of the video. So it's Pete Berry that built the trail, and in the video I'm going to keep saying it was John Hance, but it wasn't. So anyway, come visit the Grand Canyon. Alright. So this is the Grandview trail. We did a day hike. We came from that point up there all the way down, drop down here, and here's the most scenic toilet in the world, huh, James? Sits up here on Horseshoe Mesa. So the Grandview trail, I think John Hance built it, and there's some campers back in here. John Hance built the Grandview trail to do some mining there, and then off the edge of this point, it's called Horseshoe Mesa because it wraps around this point here. But there's an old rock dwelling. I think it was this old cabin type thing. There's a fireplace in there. I'll show it to you. It was about 3 miles to hike down from the rim up there down to here. And I've done probably well over 1,000 miles of backpacking over the last 25 years here in the Grand Canyon, all across the south rim here. And out of all the trails I've done, I've never done the Grandview trail, so it's kind of checked the last box off for me on the south rim. So that's pretty cool. We got here and didn't have our backpacking permits for today, and so we just did a day hike this afternoon, 3 miles down, and then we're going to turn around and go back up. I'll show you this rock dwelling over here. here's that old cabin. This is the exterior fireplace. Here's the interior. There's a bunch of metal parts from the late 1800s, early 1900s. There's the cabin. So he lived up on the rim and came down and mined here and then out on the point behind us and built this crazy trail. I'll show you some of the crazy features of the trail. Some of it's, there's no trail. It's just like when you walk down it, it looks like normal dirt and trail. And then you come down underneath and you look back up and it's just wood logs with dirt on top of it. So here's some old metal parts. And here's the old fireplace. The big old bucket thing inside. The pipe. Guess that's where he did his cooking. Kind of a pretty cool place to have a cabin. There's all these metal scattered all through here. There's all these parts and pieces left over from the mining operations back in the day. Anyway, kind of a cool place. Way out on the western end, we hiked. You have to drive about an hour on Jeep trails. Here's some old pottery. Not pottery, yeah, just kind of some ceramic pottery from, maybe it was like a jar of some kind he was using, or a bowl. Here's a bigger piece. Piece of some kind of jar, looks like. Anyway, out there going down the South Bass Trail, after you drive an hour on a Jeep trail and hike all the way down, there's a pretty cool mining operation that, I mean, there's stoves and all kinds of stuff. It looks like they just left a month ago, other than some of the rust on things. There were even some old newspapers from the early 1900s tucked back in a cave and stuff. And it's pretty cool. You come across these 100-year-old or older remnants of these old miners who came down here with mules and carved out trails down those crazy cliff faces and did a bunch of mining down here. So it's a pretty cool place.
What are you doing, Dad?
Making a field trip.
Making a field trip?
So we're climbing back up the Grandview trail. This trail that miner built over 100 years ago, down off that mesa. Cold wind's been blowing, not cold, but a cooler breeze, because it's still spring here. It's bringing in the cooler night air. But it's a pretty cool trail. It weaves down through these rocks and tree stumps and all kinds of stuff. But we're almost back to the super steep part. It climbs up right there and then it just climbs all the way up, just up that wall. It's pretty steep, so this is the easy part, kind of rolling uphill, and then it'll get really, really steep here. It's a beautiful day. Those kind of clouds look kind of dark. Hopefully no rain's coming. So here's a long stretch of that steep. They just lay this rock down like this to keep the trail from eroding out. I would imagine this is more of that a lot of this is laid down by some more recent trail crews, but some of it could be pieced together from 100 years ago or so. There's a lot of sections of trails in the canyon that are the original, built way back when. So we were way down on that horseshoe mesa around that butte where that cabin was. Here's another one of those sections of trail that is just paved with stone. I haven't seen this much paved stone like this in the canyon on other trails, but it's just like a cobblestone road, but it's really steep. And I think it's laid in place like this because this trail is really steep, and they keep it from, when there's heavy rains, from just creating gullies and washing out everything. So it's really pretty here. There's some cool trail construction. Nice rock wall forming a foundation. And then switchbacks, because it's cutting up through this ravine here. And so there's some nice walls holding back the ravine. There's some old construction with a really old steel pipe holding up big slabs to create trail. It goes all the way across there. So these miners would use these chutes. They'd use these chutes to put a trail up through, but they needed to reinforce it and sometimes actually build it across certain sections. So, but you can see old steel stakes pinning rock in place, and then old iron pipe holding slabs up with dirt on it to create trail. And then they'd put in cut down cedar trees and put in these posts across. Here's that slab being held up with a pipe right through there. So all that's got a pipe underneath it, just helping to support the outside edge of the trail. Kind of cool. Some old stakes, wood beams through there, building the trail up this ravine as it just switchbacks up. Here's a cool section of trail coming up. To a pretty view. Somebody built a cairn down there. Pretty skies today. So you can see the trail. It drops down this ravine off this cliff, down through there, through that saddle right there, and then keeps on going all the way down. Step out here. Pretty good cliff, several hundred feet off there. But that trail goes down all the way out to that point out there, and that's where that cabin was down in there. So let's go back onto the trail. Keep going. These are the sections of trail I really love. Just kind of rolling and flat along a cliff edge. This one's kind of a steep drop, but it's just so pretty because you just have these expansive views of the canyon. And you can see the Colorado River, which just a couple hundred miles upstream, I think, is where the Green River dumps into it. And Green River comes out of Wyoming, so part of that river there in the middle of the screen, right there, you can see green water just snaking through. And it's green instead of reddish like it used to be because they built that Glen Canyon Dam upriver. And so it releases out of the bottom of the reservoir from Lake Powell. But beautiful views from up here. These beautiful trails all through the Grand Canyon. You could hike your whole life here. A guy named Harvey, I think you say his name Bouchard or Bouchard. It's Butchart. He was a professor an hour and a half away at Northern Arizona University, which is where I went and got one of my degrees. And he used to come up here for 40 or 50 years. He was backpacking the Grand Canyon and just did tens of thousands of miles and kept a huge map and drew red lines everywhere he'd been. Most of it wasn't on trails like this. And some of the trails that are here now he discovered or rediscovered. They were ancient Indian trails or paths or old mining paths. But there aren't very many trails like this in the canyon, considering it's about 270 miles long and has thousands of side canyons and all that. So here's a pretty good view. Out to the west, and then all the way across and out to the east. So, and getting closer. There's the rim up on the top there at the point. That's where we're headed. So, one more stiff, steep climb and a bunch of switchbacks, and I think we're there. It's a beautiful evening in the canyon, though. Really pretty. All right. I'm going to close this field trip up here because we're almost to the rim, and there's crowds of people on the rim, tourists, taking pictures, and almost there. So that cabin is right down there against that red butte. So just a beautiful afternoon, evening in the Grand Canyon. Pretty good trail to hike. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this Grandview, and that's the last one on the south rim that I've got one piece between here and the South Kaibab Trail I need to connect. Otherwise, I've done everything for miles and miles and miles, several hundred miles. So, anyway, thanks for coming on this field trip. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. I know I always say that, but I always worry it might be a little bit boring. So come visit the Grand Canyon if you've never been. It's pretty stunning. So here's a pretty cool section of the trail. It's built into this cliff using old cedar posts. Some of this is really old, might have been original, like through here. But I'll show you up here a section of the trail. Right there. That's the trail that you're about to walk on, and it's literally on top of these cedar posts with this single stake through them there, pinned into the rock. Right here on the cliff edge. Pretty cool. So you can see how this trail is built right on this edge. It's not a steep edge. I mean, if you fell, you're just gonna land in that bush or right there. It's kind of it's more sloped than it looks. So right through here, we're on top of those cedar posts right here. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any trail right here. Kind of crazy. Beautiful day. Yep. Is it cold? How deep was it?